Welcome to another edition of the 5-Star Zone. Rico Beard, Howard Griffith from the Big Ten Network, kind enough to join us on the show. Howard, week 1 is in the books.
Yes.
I guess the biggest question, did we learn anything about the Big Ten?
Woo. You know, that's an interesting one, right? You think about Ohio State not playing as well as they probably should. I think they've got, obviously a few things that they need to work out, particularly at the quarterback position, but they look better on the defensive side. But the pass game wasn't what we've seen it to be or would have expected. Michigan kind of handled their business, but, there were some struggles early. I just think back to them trying to come off the goal line, 3 straight plays and not gaining a yard. It's kind of tough when you think about the type of offensive line they have. You even think about Michigan State. They struggled early. They couldn't get on, but then, they finally figured it out and started to move forward. I think a lot of these teams are going through, the growing phases of week 1. You see a lot of missed tackles normally in week 1. You see some kind of snafus sometimes in special teams and coverage. So I don't know that we learned a lot necessarily about our teams thus far. Penn State looks really good. If you really want to point to one team that probably had a complete game, but even they weren't as dominant defensively as we were expecting. But if you look at all of them right now, I think Penn State probably give them a little bit of an edge about who they are right now.
And now you got to look at it, like it or not, all eyes are going to be on Nebraska and what they can do with Colorado. Unfortunately, Nebraska didn't realize when they scheduled this game, they were going to be on the center stage of the college football world. Deion, Coach Prime, what he's got going on with Colorado. I guess looking at it as a whole, looking with Nebraska, it's just Howard, they can't get out their way. I don't know if you ever saw the movie Life, but they just can't get right.
Can't get right.
Well, you know what? You can't keep losing all these games like this, can you?
No. What is it, 2-14, something like that?
Yeah.
And it's crazy because you saw some of the same things that they have been doing in previous years, whether it was penalties at the wrong time, whether it's not being able to execute. And now they find themselves at the epicenter of, college sports, really. I think right now, if you had to pick probably one of the most influential people in sports right now, in college athletics right now, it's Deion Sanders and what he's been able to accomplish. Last week, I mean, and I don't really care that, TCU probably is not as good as they were last year, missing some people. But the reality is this, I think what it's turning into and what we've seen is that you can literally go to a place, go to a program, overhaul the entire roster, and if you put in the right systems, because I think that's an important part when you talk about Colorado,
right?
They put in the right system that's going to fit them, particularly offensively. They're going to put up points. It's crazy, Rico. I mean, I went back, it's Saturday, so we've got all our games on, but across the ticker, you're just seeing the points and you're seeing the yardage just continue to mount and scores going back and forth. And then I had to go back and look at the film. So when I went back and looked at the film Sunday, man, they were out leveraging the defense. And what I mean by that, they were sending 4 receivers vertical or sending 4 receivers into the route. And if they weren't blitzing somebody, the back was leaking out into the route. So that was 5 guys you had into the route. And the quarterback only needed to find, the open guy or where the mismatch was. And he did an unbelievable job of doing that. Now, listen, they missed some tackles. TCU missed some tackles. But this is one of the things that, Nebraska is not going to be able to afford to miss tackles in this game. They're going to have to be fundamentally sound in this game. Sure, they probably believe that they can move them around because of what Colorado's defense, the yardage and the points that they gave up in this one. But this game is going to come down to, really keep away. Who's got the ball last? They can't afford to have 4 turnovers and expect to win this game because the atmosphere in Boulder, I don't even know if it's going to be, because I played against those teams in the late 90s or the early 90s, Eric Bieniemy. and those guys. And the atmosphere was crazy then, but the atmosphere this Saturday is going to be epic. I mean, everybody in college athletics is watching what's going on because of what happened last week. And, Nebraska better bring their A game. Otherwise, they could get run out of that place.
Nebraska is at least known for their defense because it's just funny because you would think that the point spread would be this drastic thing. And it's really not, which leads me to think maybe we see the return of the black shirts and they actually can go in there and bring Colorado down, because I got to think that after a week of everybody telling you how pretty and special you are, it's hard to stay focused. How are you a player?
Yeah.
Like, people say, oh, you could block that out. You don't. You hear it.
Not if you've never done it before.
True.
If you've never been there before, and as a team, they've got individuals that have been in this situation before, but as a team, as a collective, they have not. And I think one of the things that's really been impressive about what Deion has done there to this point, we're 1 week in, but I think the coaches that he put in place, I talked in all season. I thought he did an unbelievable job of hiring, his coordinators and the people that are in position to coach these young folks. But they have some high level talent, and if you get out leveraged, it's a problem. I mean, TCU had them 4th and 2. I think thing goes for 46-yard touchdown. Yeah. 75. I mean, the explosive plays that they had on the offensive side, 15 yards or more, they had 8 of those. And they came at big time moments. And when TCU was trying to score, they were right there. And Travis Hunter picks it off on the goal line. I mean, there were some incredible plays made in this game by Colorado.
It was funny because I'm trying to watch the Michigan game and like, okay, let me see what I can learn. Mm-hmm. And my eye just kept going over to the Colorado game. And well, I'm just gonna watch a little bit of that. Okay, I'm gonna watch a little bit more of that. And before I know it, I'm just like, okay, Michigan's up 30-0.
I'm done with this game.
Right. This is exactly how we thought it was gonna be. Now, one that wasn't what I thought was Ohio State and Indiana. Mm-hmm. And because here's the thing. Going back to Craig Krenzel, Ohio State just has that guy at quarterback. Whoever they anoint, that's him. And heck, remember, they won a national title with their 3rd-string quarterback, Howard. They literally grow them on trees. So I was a little taken back when you look and you're like, wow, I think Harrison finished with 2 catches. And it's like, does McCord not know who's his receivers? Because this should have been something easy.
Yeah, I think so let's talk about the quarterback situation. And I think we all get excited about what Ohio State's quarterbacks have done. You go back to, Dwayne Haskins, who really started that first round, consecutive years of having it, and Fields and Stroud. I mean, these guys have really put up unbelievable numbers. But I will say this, they all struggled early. Now, I don't know that they struggled the way McCord struggled. I'm sure they didn't. But I think they had a much stronger run game with them at that particular moment. But I think this is going to be a work in progress. I think Ohio State's trying to figure out who they're going to be offensively. There was whether or not Hartline he's off the offensive coordinator, obviously. So is he calling the plays? Did he call the plays the entire game? How is Ryan Day going to handle that part of his duties moving forward when the team seems to not be clicking on all cylinders? They've got to figure out a way to make that happen, because it's not going to be good enough just to be able to throw to the tight end. And the tight end, Stover, can put up some big numbers. But if you're going to him all the time, that means they're doing an unbelievable job on the outside of covering your receivers, which is a little bit of a problem. And then you couple that by Ohio State not having as many plays. They didn't run as many plays in this game, and I think Indiana had a lot to do with that defensively. And also, they're running the option. I mean, they told us when we were there that this was where we were going. We're going to run the option and try to play keep away and time of possession, and that's what they were able to do. Ultimately, obviously, Ohio State was able to pull away with the victory and win the game. But this is how we're going to see this Indiana team play, and you kind of wonder what kind of adjustments this Ohio State team is going to need to make to really gain confidence in themselves, because we look at this team as trying to win a national championship, trying to be a part of the 14 playoffs, trying to beat Michigan to win the Big Ten. So we don't know where they are, and it looks like it's going to be a work in progress, at least the first part of the year, until they find out just who they are offensively.
And then I think, as you said earlier, I think Penn State probably had the best win. You played a Power 5 school in West Virginia. You played them at home, and it wasn't a complete game, but I sat there and said, okay, even though we didn't know who the starting quarterback was going to be, I think we all knew Drew Allen was going to be job done. Yeah. And he did. He looked great out there. Franklin had that team going, and it looks like Penn State is seriously trying to make people say, okay, don't forget about us. I know people talk Michigan, they talk Ohio State, but we're not going anywhere either.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, this is probably Franklin's best team, best football team, and probably you couple that with the best roster that he's had since he's been there, because there's talent up and down that roster. And again, I go back and I mentioned the defense not being as dominant, because they've got guys over there who are absolute game changers, right? Yeah. And Abdul Carter is going to be, a special player. We ran this series called Stick City, the guys that have worn number 11, and it goes back to LeVar Arrington. And as I'm watching this, listen, LeVar Arrington is one of the best linebackers, the best players ever to play in college, at the college level. And you watch just where a guy like Michael Parsons is right now, where a guy like Abdul Carter, you continue to see the athleticism on full display. And LeVar was an unbelievable athlete for his time.
Yeah, he was.
But right now, you look at the way Michael Parsons plays the game, when you look at the way Abdul Carter plays the game, I mean, the athleticism, it's off the charts where they are. And I think that's why there's so much hype around what Carter can do at the collegiate level. And now you kind of project him to that next level because you see what Michael Parsons is doing. And, they're
like being linebacker,
man, yeah, they're there with those guys. I mean, because, they just have some guys there that they're just different, right? And, it's a special group out there.
All right, Howard. Now, here's something that I think we both shared this past weekend. What was your level of stress watching your alma mater play? Because for me, the first half was not fun. I'm at Spartan Stadium. I'm on the field because I want to hear what the crowd is like. And after the third series, there were some boos. Now, it wasn't raining down, but there was some. And I had to think, like, is Mel Tucker going to switch quarterbacks? Does he go with the other guy, or does he ride this out with Kim? Now, I think he made the best decision because the game slowed down for Kim. He was overthrowing passes. He had the nerves, jitters, but then the second half, they pull away. You see the Henry one-handed catch. Malik Carr decided he wanted to start catching some balls. It was better. But for that first half, you're thinking Central Michigan is about to do this for the fourth time coming to Spartan Stadium. Yeah. And then I'm watching your game against Toledo, and I'm just like, is DeQuan Finn and Toledo about to put one on the ball? I give him credit. Altmaier, your leading passer, your leading rusher. I mean, I think he was also passing out hot dogs in the stands.
Yeah, he was doing it all, and they needed him down the stretch. Came up with a big play on fourth down. As he admits to, I didn't even see the play happen.
I don't know how that play. Honestly, I was like, oh, no, wait, he caught it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but what's crazy, I think when you talk about these, I mean, these are games. You look at Michigan State struggling, and I think we talk about Kim a little bit. It's hard, man, when you've been in a quarterback battle and you're asked to you go out, you're anointed, you're given the starting position or you earn the starting position, but it's a guy on the sideline that's chomping at the bits to get in there. And you're over your shoulder, you're tight, you're not able to play as loose as you want. And it's one of those things. And he finally settled down, got comfortable. They started calling some plays that they could build some confidence in him, got the run game going some. And I think all of those things are big parts of trying to give your offense, the type of confidence that you need. And you talk about Illinois. I mean, it was a struggle, but this is a Toledo team that's going to win the MAC again. Looks like they're talented at quarterback, extend plays, make things happen. They have a really good offensive line, and one of the things, they get rid of the ball so quickly, it kind of negated what Illinois was able to do as far as the pass rush is concerned. So there were their struggles in those games, but for Illinois, that was a game they would have lost last year or the year before. So to have to go through that and finding a way to win, shows you that the team is building and they're, knowing that they can't make these mistakes and trying to correct it. Now, with all that saying, they got a tough one this weekend, having to go to Kansas. This is going to be a big time game for Kansas. They're excited about it. I think it's a sellout there. So, they're going to have to rise to the occasion once again. So we'll see what happens with Illinois, and I think Michigan State will be in a good situation as well.
I mean, for Michigan State, this is you get Richmond coming in. They're off of an upset loss to Morgan State.
Yeah.
I look at this as a game for Kim and that offense to really start to click and for the defense to kind of get together, because next week, I've said it all summer long, that's your test. You got a potential Heisman Trophy candidate in Michael Penix, who knows everything about Spartan Stadium because he's torched him when he was a Hoosier. They're coming in there next week. So I think this is a week where, man, you got to fine-tune everything. Because I said for me, look, you don't want to overlook your opponent, Howard, but if you're Michigan State, this is one of those games where you probably want to score a touchdown on your first 3 possessions, kind of establish we are the dominant team here. We won't let this be a close game. As a matter of fact, we're going to let our backups get in and get them some practice so we can rest our starters. That, to me, is the only real victory for them. If this thing goes like it did last week, man, it's
got problems.
That team's going to have some problems.
Yeah, got problems. And you mentioned this is a game that they should go out, and this isn't one of those matchup opponents, right? This is a team that they should go out and be able to dominate, and they need to be able to get it done because, as you mentioned, this Washington team is pretty good. I mean,
man, I was watching that game too, and I mean, Michael Penix with just a flick of the wrist was hitting wide open guys for okay, how did everybody get wide open 10 yards behind the defense at all times? Now talk about maybe things didn't go as planned. I got to think the way the game for Iowa started, Brian Ferentz was thinking, okay, I got a quarterback, I got an offense. We scored on the first drive. It was the first play for the first time since 1991. Okay, we up 14, and then it was 10 points for the rest of the game. And I was going to always have the defense. I thought Cade McNamara would be the difference on offense. I don't know what to. They're just offensively challenged, Howard. I'm beginning to believe that. I thought this would be a difference.
Yeah,
I
would say this. I'd say let's give it another week.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because Cade had been hurt through camp, right? He really hadn't been out there. It was going to lead up to the game, whether or not he was going to be out there or not. But you could tell the timing was off with him and his receivers. But, it's about making plays ultimately, right? I think that when you look at this offense, I think they have the people in place. You look at the 2 tight ends really stepped up and played well for them, but they've got to find a way to get the ball outside on the perimeter to get some plays out of those guys, some explosion. And we've been talking about explosive plays with Iowa forever, it seems like, in the passing game. It really it's always been a little bit of a struggle for them. But if they can get to that point, they're going to be in the game because defensively, you know what you're going to get from them defensively. And then they, the best corner arguably in the league, drops a tip pass and he'd still be running on for a touchdown. So, this is a team defensively, they're as sound as they can be, but the offense just has to be able to produce, they got to be able to produce some more big plays. And I want to wait another week and see. And obviously you throw the records out with Iowa State because this is always a fierce battle between those two. But I think we'll get a better idea who Iowa is offensively, whether or not they can make the plays they need to this week.
And I'm going to finish with this. It was just funny because I was expecting the air raid in Madison. I think everybody was. It sputtered a little bit. It kind of went off the tarmac, and then all of a sudden, Fickle was like, "Wait a minute, you guys still know how to run block? We still got one of the best running backs in the league. Tell Breland, put the helmet on. We running the ball." And then all of a sudden, they looked like Wisconsin again.
Yeah, I think if I see this again this week, it's going to be the ground raid. It's going to be the new name of this thing. But I'll tell you this, and they talked about this while we were there, and I think they've alluded to it. They know with Allen and Malusi in the backfield, when those two guys, particularly when Chaz is healthy, we're having those two, that 1-2 combination in the backfield is going to be difficult for defenses to slow down. Because here's what just the threat of that air raid means. You're not going to see an 8-man box. That safety that comes in there late is going to be late, and he's going to be at the second or the third level trying to make a one-on-one tackle. And that's going to be tough duty against both of those guys. So the seams are going to be a little bit bigger. That one-on-one is going to happen a little later down the field versus whether it's the safety or the corner, whoever it may be, is going to happen a little later. And they're going to have wider lanes to be able to pick from. And at some point, when they run the ball the way they ran it last week, there are going to be some problems outside. There are going to be some one-on-one matchups, and the ball's got to go up, and they've got to be able to complete it. That's kind of where I see this, really see this team going right now, because they're going to continue to run it, and they're going to do a good job with it. You look at defensively, having Tressel there, people thought, okay, they're going to switch back to the 4-3 defense, which he's more comfortable with. But I would say this, they spent some time, they being the Cincinnati coaching staff, Luke Fickell and those guys, and Coach Tressel came and visited the Badgers while Jim Leonhard was there, right? Mm-hmm. So they studied that. They studied that system, the 3-4, and they implemented it some an occasion at Cincinnati. But the reality is this: when you have as many linebackers on your roster as they do right now, you need to be playing a 3-4, because that's putting the players in the best position for them to win. And quite frankly, I don't care what scheme you have, or you can be a genius at whatever you are. If you don't have the personnel right now to run it, you better adapt your scheme to what they're doing. And look, they've got some great defensive minds up there in Wisco, so they're going to get it figured out and then know what they need to do. But if they run the ball and control the clock the way they are, I mean, this is going to be a team that you're going to have to continue to watch out for. And as usual, we've always talked about it. The West is wide open, except for one team. We've talked about Northwestern. I think they're the only ones that's probably not going to be in the middle of it. Purdue's got some adjustments they need to make defensively, but I think they'll be able to do it. So the West is going to be a fun race this year.
Yes. Speaking of Purdue, I mean, is this just growing pains? Will this team get better down the line? Because I think really absolutely are going from an offensive-minded coach to a defensive-minded coach.
Yeah, and I'm not so concerned about Ryan Walters being that defensive-minded coach. I'm kind of pulling a little bit away from, just because you're a defensive guy, you can't play great offense. Graham Harrell is probably as good as they get when you come to play callers and what they need to do. And I think Card is going to be the quarterback for them. I think one of the things they struggled with was running it consistently early, and then giving up those big plays in the passing game defensively. We saw a Fresno State team who is no slouch.
No, they're not.
When it comes to playing good offense, and they're led by one of the really special coaches over time, over his career on the offensive side. And they ended up with safeties trying to cover slot receivers. And I don't care where you are, what level you're at, if you get that matchup, the ball needs to go there. And so many times we saw the ball go into that position where they had that one-on-one matchup. So to me, that's more schematic. So they have to make some adjustments, and probably couldn't make them quick enough, because Ryan Walters, remember, he's not calling defensive plays right now. He's not. Now, will that change this week? I don't know. They've got to find that balance. But he went into this season thinking that he was not going to be, calling defensive plays because he needed to be able to look at the big picture of this. You wonder how much of that will change this week and as they move forward. But I think it's just about growing pains and understanding where you need to be able to spend your time. And obviously, the players making the plays that they have to make when they're out there on the field.
Howard, I know we pretty much covered the Big Ten, but I do want to ask you this, man. You're a college football person. Bigger disappointment, LSU's second half or just what happened to Clemson at Duke?
Well, LSU, listen, it's a talented football team, but Norvell and that Florida State is really good. I mean, that is a really good program. They have really built this thing and kind of built it the right way. And this won't be the only big game that they play this year. So Florida State, I thought when you watch the game, I thought LSU would be a better team. But as Florida State has continued to build over the last couple of years, and then you see the way they played, I know Michigan State fans might not be as happy as a wide receiver running around there in Florida State.
But you know what? Here's the thing. A lot of State fans got angry, and I said two things. One, portal giveth, portal taketh away. You guys weren't feeling bad for Wake Forest 2 years ago when Kenneth Walker showed up here and took on the world. For this one, honestly, I think Keon went to a better system, a system that will help him. They run 4 wide, so he's going to get a lot of single coverage out there. When the other wide receivers 6'7", they can't just focus on you. Whereas in the Big Ten, he would have probably faced a lot of double coverage, and this is only helping him. So I know State fans, they don't want to see this. Get used to this. And you know what? Just be happy for that young man. And when you start feeling that way, remember, you didn't feel sorry for Wake Forest. And hey, maybe because after the first run of the game, I thought he was going to pull a Kenneth Walker. Maybe you got something with Nate Carter at running back. UConn. So you can't be upset when somebody leaves because you benefited from the portal.
No doubt. No doubt. And listen, I think Florida State's going to be a story all year long. You look at Clemson, you talk about Duke. I mean, Duke has really started to make some strides going back to last year. This is a well-coached team, a team that really knows who they are. You look at their quarterback, stepped up and made some huge plays when he needed to. Wow. But it's one of those things, man. You kind of are wondering, and then you look at what DJ was able to do at Oregon State last weekend with the numbers he put up, and he was essentially run out of Clemson. So you kind of wonder, has it run its course? You just kind of wonder that, and you kind of scratch your head. And that'll be one of those stories that, obviously we'll be watching all year, but that is not the way Clemson really wanted to get their season started, by going down to Duke.
Now, nobody stays on top forever. Just see Urban Meyer and the Florida Gators for a while. It looked like they could beat pro teams, and now
takes time. It takes time, man. And I think one of the things that we learn throughout college athletics, it is hard, particularly in football, it is hard to win and be consistent each and every year. It's just so hard to do. You might be able to get away with it a little bit more in basketball because of schemes, and you're able to, get certain players, 4 or 5 players that really can, or 2 players really that can change the outcome of your season. But you need a lot of guys in the football arena to be able to be consistent. And you got to continue to recruit. And now with the portal and NIL, things have changed. And we talked about Deion already, but it looks like if he continues on this pace, and then I'm not saying all of a sudden they're getting ready to win the Pac-12 and be in a national championship hunt, but I think coaches and I think administrators will look at it, as long as we still have the current format, we'll look at, hey, you can build a team overnight. And that's really what he's been able to do. But I would also say this, it's because of who he is the reason he was able to build the team the way he's built the team, because he's won at everything he's done. And he's always been, the brightest light in the room when he's shown up. And we shouldn't be surprised that he right now, in my mind, when you look across college athletics, I mean, he is the biggest story in our network. The Big Ten, Fox bet on him. They came up big last week, And now they've got them again with Big Noon this weekend. So we'll see how things play out against Nebraska.
We should definitely see that, man. And we'll see what Nebraska can do. Howard, I appreciate your time. How about this? Let's do this again next Thursday. Let's
Sounds
run it
like
back,
a plan, my man.
and we'll see how the Big Ten fared, if it made bigger strides. Colorado, Nebraska, we're looking at you. Finish strong. All right. For Howard Griffith, I'm Rico Beard. Thanks for listening and watching the 5 Star Zone. Keep liking, telling your friends to subscribe, and we'll be back next week.